Hey guys, it is summer and I am planning for the next school year, so I wanted to make a quick video about what my plans are for my 16-year-old. And I want you to know that I did not come up with all of these plans on my own. I did spend a lot of time thinking about what he might enjoy based on his interests and his talents, but I went over this with him. I presented a lot of ideas to him and talked about all of the different options and the pros and the cons, and he made the decisions because he's just that old where he needs to own his own education. And so I'm sort of the presenter of ideas, but he's the one who gets to decide what he wants to pursue. So this schedule that we've come up with is really kind of a conglomeration of my ideas and his ideas, and he doesn't love all of them. I think it was important that as we were putting it together, it was mostly stuff that he's really interested in, with a couple of subjects that are a stretch for him. Most of the stretch subjects are the ones that he chose for himself, but I think there's one in there that I chose for him that I think this is really important that you have to have. So I'm just going to go over what we've got for him coming up this coming year. First and foremost is piano. This kid loves to play. He loves to express himself on the piano. He's very talented at it. And I keep plugging this, but I'm just so impressed with Piano Panacea because they've just done such a great job with him. They've helped him really develop his talents and his confidence. Man, he is so confident on the piano with no help from me at all. And so it is entirely them and entirely him. And I'm so impressed with both of them for what he's doing. He's going to need at least an hour every single day set aside for piano because that's what he loves to do. And it is usually me who's saying you need to get off the piano now because you have to accomplish other things as well. But we do have to set aside a chunk of time because that's so important for him to pursue that he's good at it and he likes it. So we set aside at least an hour for that. I am hoping that we can get him to intern somewhere for a marine biology class. There are a lot of different colleges around here that offer that, and I'm hoping to get him in some sort of an intern option. But if we can't do that, then I will get him an oceanography book. So I would rather him do an internship. I really think that he'd get a lot more out of it, but barring that, an oceanography book will be good, or maybe a Nat and Phys book. That's something that we're sort of tossing around, one or the other of those, because that's another one of his loves. He's just really loving science, and I want to make sure that he has all of the education around that he can get because he is so interested in it. We want to put a lot of focus on that. Which this is part of my educational philosophy. We do the minimum on stuff that they're not interested in, and then we really put a lot of energy into the stuff that they are interested in so that they can pursue their passion and their talent and do things that really matter and not beat themselves up too much about things that are hard for them. Everybody has to do math, everybody has to do history, but you don't have to spend hours on those. We can just kind of get by and then do the stuff that you really care about. And speaking of, he has to do world history. This is one that he does not love. He's not a fan of history. And so we went through a lot of different books because we have a lot of books because I love history. And this is where we do not meet up. He just does not love this, even though it happens to be one of my loves. And I'm okay with that because he's his own person and he's going to develop into who he needs to be. He does have to have a little bit of world history. So here's what we've come up with. He's going to use the crash course from Khan Academy, which is really fast overview. I do not normally recommend that as something to learn history because it's just so fast. But for him, because he doesn't really want to do much with history, we're just going to have that be his overview so he gets kind of a top-down view of history in a really fast manner. And then this is my book house, the 12th book, which is the highest book and the most difficult stuff. So this book has a lot of stuff in it. It's got some Shakespeare, it's got Leo Tolstoy, Albert Einstein, James Whitcomb Riley, I don't even know who that is, Frederick Douglass, Louisa May Alcott, Charles Dickens. So it's more literature than history, but I feel like literature is the best way to see into the eyes of people who lived through the history, that they give you so much insight by what they wrote and how they wrote. So I do feel like literature is an important part of history. So he's going to be reading that as part of his world history. He's also going to be taking out of these two books. These are both Libraries of Hope books, and you can get them free online. This is the Stories of Great Lives of Statesmen and Leaders. And this is Stories of Great Musicians because, again, he loves music, and so he's really fascinated in the other musicians who've lived and their experiences with music. So even in history, we're really kind of focusing on the things that he connects with. So I love that. I love that part of homeschool, and I'm grateful that Marlene has put together these books that we can use to teach that. The next one is called TJ Ed High. It stands for Thomas Jefferson Education High School. And it is a real challenge. My oldest child did it, and it took maybe 2 hours a day. And I know going in, this is going to be a time requirement. He's just going to have to know that he's reading at least 1 book a week, sometimes 2 books a week. There will be online discussions, and there's also videos that he watches for it. It's intense, and yet he's 16. It's time to be intense. It's time to get really into harder books and reading hard things and understanding and discussing them with other people and writing in a way that is persuasive and informative. And so he'll kind of be picking that up during this class as well. It is, I want to say, almost the bulk of what he's doing, because 2 hours a day of an intense reading can be daunting. So he'll probably do that, and then he'll do something physical like piano after that. And then he has SAT prep. This is something that he's just old enough. It's time for him to be taking this test to be ready for college, but I don't want him to go in without any preparation. So we're going to be taking this from Khan Academy. They have an entire class on SAT prep, and they suggest that you spend about 20 minutes a day on it. I really don't think you can spend more than that and focus. So he's going to spend maybe 20 to 30 minutes on SAT prep, and then the other part of that hour is probably going to be spelling. Now, spelling is something that he has personally been asking me to help him with for a long time, and I finally found Classical Conversations has a spelling program that they use. It's called Vocabulary from Classical Roots D. There you go. And it's just a bunch of spelling words that he feels like it's really important that he needs to improve his spelling, and especially when he's going to be doing all of this writing with TJ at High, it's very important that he feels confident in his ability to spell. So that will be something that he does kind of alongside SAT prep. Not that they're connected, just that they don't take an hour each. And so together they'll probably take about an hour. And I'm kicking around the idea of getting him a writing program. I don't know if I really want to do this because he's not excited very much about writing. I'm wondering if we just get him doing really well on spelling and then have him do his writing assignments through TJ Ed, if that is sufficient. I'm not sure, I haven't decided on that, but that's pretty much the only one that I'm still up in the air about. The other thing that he's going to be doing is learning logic. I feel like learning logic is really, really important in today's world because so many people are illogical, and yet we accept what they say as if it is completely not only logical, but bedrock foundation truth. And I think, okay, we have got to get much better at recognizing what is real, what is true, and what makes sense. And so we are going to, this is not the book he'll be using. This is the Thinking Toolbox. This is the one that my little kids are reading out of right now. The next one in this series is called The Fallacy Detective, and that is the one that he will be going from. I don't have it yet, but he's going to just work his way through that book and hopefully be able to pick apart an argument and understand what the premises are to an argument and see, are those premises faulty? That's what I find most often, that people's premises will be faulty, that you're jumping off from a place of instability before you even start to argue your case. And then there's also, you know, all sorts of problems that come into people's arguments, the straw man fallacy and I can't even think of all of them right now, but there are just lots of fallacies that people will interweave into their discussion or into their trying to persuade you to believe something, and we just accept them because we can't always identify them. So I don't want him growing up thinking everybody's trying to trick you, but I also think you need to be able to discern what is actually something that you can believe and what is something that you ought to be questioning. And so understanding logic is a really important part of that. So he will be doing the fallacy detective. And the last class he takes, he's actually taken for the last 3 years. This is his last year taking it. It's a seminary class for our church. It's a religion class. They leave at 6 in the morning and they get back at 7:30. And that is part of his day. And obviously there's some travel time in there as well. But he will probably start his day. So he starts actually at 6 for that. But by the time he gets home, then he takes a break and we have breakfast and we, tell stories as a family and we get the house all orderly and cleaned up. And then he starts his day at 8 is when he's supposed to start it. When we're really good, he starts right at 8, and then he'll go have an hour lunch and then finish about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. He will probably still have a job and work some evenings, but we'll see how that goes as the summer progresses and see what kind of hours he's looking at between summer hours and fall hours. But that is his schedule. To me, this feels really overwhelming. It feels like there's a lot of stuff in there, so I sort of have to sit on it and say, do we want to try to cram all of this in there? And remember that this is the hard time of learning. This is the time when you really have to put it in, but he has to also buy in because it's just too much for me to try to motivate him to do. And he really is self-motivated on all of those except maybe fallacy detective and TJ at high. So we'll see if I need to help him transition into those, or if he's going to be able to have the wherewithal to be able to say, this is hard, but I'm going to do it because I'm this old and this is time for me to get this kind of an education. We'll see. We'll have to look into it and just kind of move with it as it goes. Every time we transition to something new, I have to be more involved in the kids' lives to be able to help them make that transition successfully. But then once they're there, I kind of step back and they just take over on their own. This is definitely going to be a transition year for him, but I'm excited because he's really finding his own passions and his own interests, and I think he's going to do a great job. And I hope this is helpful because I know he's not your kid and his interests aren't necessarily your kid's interests, but it is exciting to see how he's developing. And I hope that helps you guys see maybe what would work for your kids and have some different ideas of the options and the resources that are out there. You are doing some really, really important stuff. Being a mom and being a dad matters so much, and you're doing a much better job than you think you are. Keep it up. It's so important. I will catch you on the next one. Thanks.